Facebook. So if those others want to join us, they can hop in and watch later. Getting there.
I'd be curious to see, I think it would be good to share with everybody is how many of us now currently are investors or own more than one property. How many doors do you own? What's your intention throughout your life? Like Josh has a big goal, we know. And a lot of us do. So I think it'd be important to share some of those goals that we might have based off of this. Does this inspire us to do anything differently or anything else? And this is just the beginning of this book.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Are we live? Yes. Jess, can you check your phone? Can you see for over?
Yep. Please hold, friends. You want me to keep an eye on Facebook too, Jenny?
Sure.
Okay. It's in your group, right?
Jenny, you look like you're ready for the OU football game with that lipstick on.
Boomer.
Ugh. Go Tigers.
All right. All right. So we are just going to say that we're good and we're going for it. So, hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey, last happy hour mastermind that we did together, we realized at the very end that there would be some interest in us talking about this book that so many of us had not really read or should reread. There we go. Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And so that's where we're fast implementers, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. I do not see us live, by the way, in your group.
What's that?
I don't see us live in the group.
Okay. 1 second. It says preparing, so.
Ooh. Very good, Greg.
Oh, now it says recording live on Facebook. I see it.
Okay. We're good. Awesome. Okay, so back again. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny Wolek from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You guys introduce yourself super quick and where you're from.
I'm Jessica Starr with Starr Realty Group in Greater Hartford, Connecticut.
Hey guys, Josh Anderson in Nashville, Tennessee.
Hello, everyone. Tim Houck in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Go Tigers.
Yes, the real Tigers.
No. Well, so thanks, guys, for hopping on. And today we were just going to take the first sections, pages 1 through 121, I believe, of the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And as a group, just go through and give our ahas. We kind of divided up to conquer so that we could maybe be more efficient in what we studied. Everybody read?
Yes.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of the important
Quick
things.
question. Everyone,
Go for it, Tim.
I was going to say, before we get started on this, just from a perspective, Josh, we all own rental investment properties, correct? Okay. Josh, how many doors do you own?
Doors, I own like 72 doors.
Crazy.
So yeah, but hold on. So 3 of those are apartment complexes, and then the rest of them are duplex, a couple of duplexes, triplex, things like that. And that doesn't include a couple of other commercial, vacant lots and things like that. So, but just purely income property is 72 doors. And just if anybody wants to hold me accountable, I want 1,000 doors in 10 years.
I love that goal. That's awesome.
Well,
I only own 5 doors, and that's only a 4-family and 1 single family. The nice thing
That's
is,
what I wanted to hear you say.
yeah, I think that's important for people to know. So we're just starting out. My goal was to have a investment property per kid and then 3 additional investment properties for retirement purposes. And I think I need to think a lot bigger than that. And that was simply to pay off their college. So I bought them when they were babies, and I wanted to buy 2 more when they were babies, except I got scared, if I'm being honest, and I didn't. So now I need to be held accountable to do that because my kids are getting older and college is coming. So I need to do that sooner.
Yeah, Jess, and I would tell you, I just started investing like 3 to 4 years ago.
Okay.
So, and I tell people that because I put money back into my business, like outside of my living expenses, I put all my money back into my business for the first, 6, 7 years of like literally everything. I mean, I rolled it all back into the business to build and hire people. So in hindsight, I really wish I'd been, I think we as agents have the best opportunity to invest in properties. And I think we have to have the mindset that we are a buyer first always, and then we're the listing agent second. And I think that we want to be heroes to our clients, and we always bring them great deals. And then you look up one day and go, damn, that was a really good deal.
Oh yeah.
Why didn't I buy that? Is it easier, even if you don't have the money to do it, it's really easy to find investors or get creative and put a deal together. The hard part's just finding the deals that make sense.
Right.
And we can go into that more.
Yeah, we will.
I think adding to that, so we can use some of these as topics, just like Josh said, Jenny, we'll use some of our clients we may have had that we have helped build portfolios over the years and say like, hey, how many properties did we help these investors buy that had we bought them, we bring how much money? Let's think about some of those. I can think of a handful of them that I've made them a lot of money.
Right. So Tim, why don't you share yours real quick, and that'll just lead into kind of my first part that I cover. Tim, I don't know that he has good internet connection today.
He doesn't even look like he's. Tim, are you alive? Okay.
Sorry, I think I'm having some internet connection issues. Yeah, so I primarily invest in single family homes. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
We can hear you now.
Kind of. Awesome.
Perfect.
Okay.
How many do you have, Tim?
All right. So for now, since Tim isn't, is he trying to chat or something?
Jenny, just go into
okay. All right. So this is why it's so important that we're reading this, because exactly what you guys already shared is that so many times as real estate professionals.
Yeah, I'm texting you guys. I think I'm having.
Okay. So many times that, as like we just said, I'm a little distracted. Sorry. Focus. Okay. So many times we are helping all of our clients and we're wearing the realtor hat, and here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with an average sales price of $200,000. I mean, I help people buy and sell $200,000 homes. That's $6,000 to my business, instead of thinking of, oh, if I bought that property and what the investment and return would be. So this is why it's so valuable that we are reading this, because not only can we be better realtors, we can have that investor mindset. So I'll just give my quick little real estate investment story. Is back in my younger days, I graduated with my master's in human relations, and I went and started working in the HR department for a startup company, and I was making $23,000 a year, and I thought I was rolling in it. It was awesome. Well, quickly I discovered that I am a little bit more of an entrepreneurial spirit and got into real estate. And I'm really fortunate that my broker was a big thinker and an investor, because he got me, as soon as I basically had my real estate license and 6 months in the business, he was already encouraging me to buy a property, buy a house. So I was single, 28 years old, and I bought my first little bungalow kind of near campus, near Soonerland, God's country, Boomer Sooner. And so anyway, so I bought that property, and then a year later, I bought another house, and I kept the other one as my investment property. The long story here to get to the point is that when it was time for me to move back home, move to Tulsa, I'd owned these properties, one for 2 years, one for 1 year, and I was able to sell both those houses and have $30,000 in such a short period of time that was able to fund my move home without any stress, my starting up a real estate career in a new town without any financial stress. So I think that's just another story to tell, is that we know the value of this, whether, now hindsight, do I wish I still had those houses? Heck yeah. But I made those different decisions back then. So what I love about the start of this book and any Gary Keller, Jay Papasan book, I love the way that that he tells stories. it just, I mean, even if you guys, the front part is all of the language and the wording of the big thinking and the big models and the big successes that we've already hear all the time through MREA, through the one thing. And that's just really what the part, what I really pulled from that first part is that, you know, little money comes easy, big money doesn't. It's all about mindset. It's all about the fact that anyone can do this. It's an opportunity that is available to all of us. And you just need to be ready. And you need to really have those affirmations daily of, am I going to find a good deal today? First for myself, and then maybe for my clients. What did you guys kind of get from, you know, that first like mindset piece?
I think for me, a lot of it is the same stuff that we talk about, you know, at Mega Camp, and it's the mindset and the reading the books and really learning from other people. One of the things, like page 18, for example, just like learning from history. And Gary just said this when we were at Mega Camp, and somebody asked him in his mastermind he asked what are you reading, or who is your mentor, Gary? And he said a lot of what he's doing is reading books on Abraham Lincoln and all these people that have already done it. And we all know this, but I think it's just a big piece. And then kind of like every success story worth exploring had 3 fundamental parts. And it was what a person thought it should be, or what it could do, how that person did it, and what they accomplished. And so it was like, that's page 19. It was think, plan, and produce. So it's like big models and
those are both on my sticky notes. So those were.
I like to highlight stuff.
No, I got the highlight too. See,
yeah.
I just have the sticky note to point that out. I do love that part about that people have already gone before us, and obviously some are further along in this than others. And because our company's so amazing and we all share and learn and grow together. I haven't read Unlimited Power. Have you guys read that book yet?
Yes.
So maybe
that's real quick. One of the other things that page 22 was awesome because I had a similar experience. It was kind of the $100,000 that got away. Mm-hmm. And I think with as successful as Gary's been, like that sticks out in his mind to this day at such a big level. And it's really not that big of a deal compared to the deals he does now. It's just interesting that he knew it was a good deal. And for example, I had somebody that was on my team for 4 or 5 years, and for 7 years now, he's been talking about buying an investment property. He just did it this year, which is really cool. But mentally, it took him, he's been involved in so many transactions, and it took him that long to wrap his head around the idea of doing it. And he does it for other people all the time. And he had enough money. It was just like being scared. It's that analysis paralysis of doing the first one and then just do it. It doesn't have to be the home run deal. It can be the deal where you're making $200 a month or $100 a month. Just get on base and learn. And that's a big piece of what I got from this this first section is just do it. Make it a calculated risk. There's really not risk if you know what you're doing.
What I liked was when he said in this section about how he met with his friend Michael for breakfast, the investor / financial guy. And that, like you said, he read everything from Buffett to Rohn, and that they shared their observations every week at breakfast, and they kind of were accountability partners. And one thing that I thought was really important in that is that he said he kept a personal balance sheet and just a 1-page document that summarized his net worth. And I love that because I remember watching and talking with Wendy and Jay at Papazan, and they talked about how they wanted to be, net worth millionaires, and then, 10 millionaire, whatever, based on their total properties that they owned. And they had this big goal and how they were going to get there. And keeping that balance sheet with you is kind of like having your vision boards in your offices, right? And you get to look at that every day. You get to look at that in your journal and with your gratitude and affirmations and say, okay, well, where am I at today? What do I owe? And I know for me, same thing with that investing. I wanted to have a certain amount down. So I was bringing in a certain amount. In our properties, although we only have 5 doors, they're very profitable. So, that's a really good thing to me. And I know the $200 a month is great. And I should be able to think like that. I just wanted a big profit on it. So that was where my analysis paralysis was. So I think I need to be able to settle a little bit more.
They can't all be, they're not all going to be home runs and grand slams.
Right.
If you do one every couple years, that is like a really great deal. Good for you. I kind of relate it to baseball. So singles and doubles win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody that gets up to bat can hit a home run. That just doesn't happen. And so if you get enough people doing singles and doubles, you're winning the game. You're winning every game.
That's a great analogy.
So let's take on an actionable item. As Josh, you had a team member who he knew that was important for him, is to invest in real estate. So I know that that's probably a goal of all of us. So how are you held accountable to that? Is it something you share with others, with a coach, with a?
As far as wanting, so with him, that was part of the time that he was on the team. I can't make somebody do it, but I brought him in on lots of deals and kind of told him about, I even offered to partner with him on a couple of deals. And he's still somebody I talk to regularly. And I told him just yesterday, I said, bring a deal. We'll do a deal together that you can't otherwise afford on your own. You find the deal and we'll make it happen. So I think it's having those conversations, but I've also told the entire team, like, I think wealth building is a really important conversation for us to be having with our team, because I think it's another value add. And they see just as many or more deals than I do. I think it's important for us to help them get to that next level of not always having to work for income versus having lots of money.
Yeah, so that's what he was talking about, the difference between financial riches and financial wealth, where the riches are where when you stop working, you stop making money, versus the wealth is owning assets that generate money for you. So my last sticky note in this section, is just now that he just has the mindset and the conversation, anyone he meets, he says, do you know of any good deals? So should we just add that into our repertoire when meeting with people? So do you know any good deals? Like always being open to talk about.
I love that question. It's such an easy, basic question, and it opens up the conversation to go down a totally different path or angle. Jess asked, how many single family properties do you own? Can you hear us?
Single family, I own.
How many properties, period? And
7.
Cool.
Good.
And 7. How many of those single family versus?
And so, so 5 are single family. 5 of them are single family. The other ones have multiple doors. And I know some cash flow decent, some cash flow really nice, but I have nice equity stakes in all of them. So my approach is a little more conservative on the cash flow, but heavy on the equity. So,
yeah.
Well, that's the first little snippet of section that I had. And so I see that Dory's got a great story to tell. So I'm going to let her kind of chime in. Hey, Dory.
Hi.
Hi. Why don't you share what you were saying?
I miss you guys.
Hi there.
I want to come speak in Key West.
Please do. That would be wonderful. All of you.
My kid also wants to go fishing down there. So it seems like
we can make it happen. So about 20 years ago, we made our first purchase of an investment property. And then we bought the house that was next to us. And I had no training and nothing. We just knew that we liked renovating homes, and we were hairdressers at the time, had salons there in Key West. And it just kind of came natural. It was a gut instinct. My husband was like, no. And I said, yes. And we purchased these homes. Later on, as it turned out, they were, they made us money. It was a lot of unexpected situations when you're a landlord. However, my husband unfortunately got ill, and we needed to sell our business and at least one of the homes to create a new life. So thank goodness for that. We were able to have that as collateral to make a new life. And then later on down the road, we sold the last one because I had it with hurricanes and worrying about that. And we didn't live there anymore at that time. So now I'm so glad that you guys brought this subject up, because I do have land. I don't have homes. I was afraid to purchase another home by myself. So I have land that I didn't care if it rained or hurricane or flooded, I would be fine. But now, my head is ready, and I'm very excited to hear this, so I can now have a purpose and a plan and a book and you guys to ask questions on. So that was my input.
And Dory, that's what insurance is for. So go out and find some good deals.
True.
I mean, I get it. I've got friends who own properties that have been destroyed, and Tim and I both have been down to the Panama City and Mexico Beach area, and some of that stuff just got destroyed a couple of years ago, and so, or last year, I guess. I don't think you can look at it. To me, I just don't think you can look at it like that. If you find a good deal, buy it.
You know what?
Somebody else will.
You know where your houses don't get destroyed? Connecticut. They don't get destroyed.
Yeah.
One good thing.
Hey, Jenny, one other thing that we didn't talk about, I don't know if that's in the first section or not, but yeah, I think it is. Or maybe it's not. What page did we go to on the first section?
We went to 27.
Okay.
Yes, it's coming up.
Yeah.
I was going to talk about page 28. Go ahead. Awesome.
Oh, that was, we're probably on the same one then. So the three forces that are the core of all investing: criteria, terms, and network. The dynamic trio of investing. Those things are so important, because sometimes we say that, okay, price is the determining factor for everybody. But when we go to some of these sellers, even, I thought about a deal that I could have taken, and I should have taken it. And it's going to be my $100,000 deal. I saw when Gary did the same thing. I was like, damn it. Literally, the terms for these sellers were that they wanted to make it happen fast. They didn't convey any of this to me. And instead, a flipper approached them, and they accepted it because of how easy they made it on them. They could leave their stuff. They could, just move out. They could take what they wanted. They didn't have to worry about it. Close when they wanted. It was cash. They didn't have to worry about an inspection.
And Jess, you know how much that cost the investor that bought it to clear out the house and do that stuff?
Yeah, it's silly.
$1,500 maybe.
Yeah. And it would have made money on the stuff they sold too.
You know what he sold them on?
Convenience.
It was an easy solution, just like what the iBuyer and that kind of stuff is trying to do for certain people.
I just wrote down iBuyer. Yep.
Well, and here's the thing. So that's what sometimes we don't wrap our heads around. And so my big thick skull, I'm sitting there going, why would you do this? It's only this for this and that for that. You can make 100,000. You can make 50,000. I should have just bought it, put it back on the market with some paint, some new lights, not even anything else, cleaned it out for him. I could have made $50,000 without even thinking about it, and just put it right back on the market. Even reducing the
you had your realtor hat on.
Take your realtor hat off and put your
realtor hat on.
Yeah. So the best mistake you can make is a $50,000 or $100,000 mistake, because you will never make it again.
Well, and if I flipped it, I could have made even more. So I'm like, oh.
All right, stop dwelling on it. Let's keep rolling.
Yeah. Listen, stop. So anyways, I thought those were really important things. And, when they said that 80% of the wealth is owned by 20% of the population, most of that is all fear-based. I think that's the biggest thing for people to know. And all the topics at the top of each one of the sections with the quotes that they give are so prudent, I think. Hang on, I'm going to find the one I want. Josh, go ahead, because I know you wanted to add.
Well, I was just going to say, I think one of the things that I see with a lot of people coming to Nashville, I think the best thing that you can do is get dialed in on your criteria. And I think network and your terms are equally as important. But I see people that call me and literally go, oh, I'll buy anything. It needs to be just find me a deal. And it's I can't, that doesn't make sense to me. If it's a good enough deal and it's amazing, I'm buying it. I'm not bringing it to you, but everybody's got a little bit different criteria based on where they're coming from. We have people coming from Beverly Hills in LA that are used to a 2.5 to 2.75, maybe a 3 cap. Well, they'd be happy to get a 5.5 or 6 cap here.
And Josh, because a lot of people aren't at that level where you're at, can you define what that means for people? Cap?
The cap rate. The cap rate being what somebody's looking for based on what they pay for it and what the return is. And then some people look at a 1% rule. So if you bought it for $100,000, does it rent for $1,000 a month? Correct. And so you can learn all those things. There's all kinds of different methods. There's the BRRRR, BRRR, buy, rent, all that stuff. All I'm saying is get really dialed into what your criteria is and do not falter off of that criteria, because if it's $500 a month that you have to make based on what your parameters are and you go down to 300, I'm telling you that deal guaranteed will end up being a disaster for you. And you'll resent it. And it's not that it won't be a good investment, but when you start going off of your parameters and your formula, every time I see it happen, it never works out. And Gary mentioned that in his book.
Your criteria also could be something like, hey, not only just what you want to make, but it could be about the type of properties you want to buy. So for me, I want to buy single family homes that are in a neighborhood that have public water, public sewer, that have a certain type of heat. If they're more than one unit, I want electric utilities because they're individually charged. I don't need to worry about furnaces, right? I don't need to worry about septic systems.
And that's what I'm talking about criteria. It doesn't have to be location based. It doesn't have to be a certain amount per month. It needs to be like, for me, I'll just buy multifamily. Like that's all I buy. I'm not opposed to buying single family, but I just like multifamily. It doesn't increase in value as much. But for me, it's all about cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so for some other people, they want a location. I don't care. For me, it could be a C location that I know is going to turn into a B location in the next 5 years.
So the next, Justin, your next part are all the different myth understandings. So if you're, are there any that stood out? Because these are all familiar if we've read, Gary before. So which ones stand out to you?
Peers are educated into us and can, if we wish, be educated out. I think although so simple, that's the one that we probably need to learn and understand and appreciate the most. The devil. I know I can always rely on doubt and discouragement to break the heart and shatter the will of man. People doubt either their abilities or their possibilities. I think those are the biggest things that people should focus on and know that that's what others count on. And just have faith in what you want, what is a good investment, or what you see others do. Get mentors, get people that, are doing it at a high level and that can inspire you, or, that know more than you do, that can lead you. You probably had investors that you've helped buy these properties. Use them as some of your guides.
Yeah. On page 38, I wrote down, just get started.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of above the gray box for Jimmy and Linda.
Yeah.
Just get started. There's never a perfect time, but there's also, no matter how expensive your market is, there's always deals in good markets and bad. Just get started. If you're making $100 a month, who cares? As long as somebody's paying your mortgage. I know it's not ideal, but just get started.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you look up 10 years later and you're like, man, that would have been a really great investment.
Yeah. That was one of mine on page 62, and it just said, your best investments will be in areas you can already do understand. We're in real estate. We watch other people buy homes. We understand the mechanics of how it all works. But often people spend too much time getting ready to get ready. And some things you're just not going to know. My very first investment property, I remodeled from top to bottom. I've owned it for 5 years. I haven't had one problem with it. The one I bought across the street has been a nightmare, comparatively speaking. I've got $150,000 in equity in it, but I'm learning all the time how water systems, air conditioners, hot water heaters. We've had all these problems, but you're never going to know unless you get started. The school of hard knocks is sometimes the best way to learn. So, yeah.
Well,
I love Gary's internal conversation on page 46 also, or not internal, but it was with one of his students.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all can read that on your own. It just kind of went through him giving her different angles and different, what, Jen?
Oh, just allowing her to go. Was this the part about
it was just kind of digging in and making her
and thinking about life beyond?
Yeah, like she's concerned about her community and being able to do certain things, and he said, well, the more successful you are, it'll amplify you as a person more, and you can go do more of those things for more of those people around your community.
I know I needed that.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that was important, people generally have two ways of looking at anything: the way they see themselves in the world and the way they see the world and how it works. And then the other truth that he talked about was really important on page 40. he said, yes, the myth was, I don't need to be an investor. My job will take care of my financial wealth. And the truth is, yes, you do need to be an investor. Your job is not your financial wealth.
And you know, one of the things I wrote by that, Jess, is I wrote down the idea that this is taught in school. Basically, the idea of being an employee rather than that being an employee is what being a student in a classroom is, to me, in my opinion, and that you'll be taken care of by the government when you retire, which we all know at this point is not going to happen. But that's such an employee mindset rather than somebody being able to control their destiny and their future.
It's a rich dad, poor dad mindset, if anybody read that book.
Yeah, so what I highlighted in relation to all that at the top of 41 was that, yeah, so we have this employee mindset that in the old days you would be a saver and now you're a modest investor by funding your 401k or your mutual fund. And instead they can be using that same money to be building wealth. So that's just the mindset. So there are people out there that don't have this mindset that we do.
Use coffee cans and put money under your mattress.
Yeah.
So here's something I learned too. If you guys, maybe you guys know this, but this was new to me. I didn't realize. And thinking of that $50,000 to $100,000 I could have made, when looking at other opportunities where to pull money instead of just draining accounts, I literally thought about it and I thought, okay, well, what other things could I do? Obviously, we have retirement. We could have pulled from that, borrowed from yourself, right? Do you know that if you have whole life insurance, you can also borrow from that and pay yourself back? I had not realized that. And I was like, oh my, I have so much of that stuff that I'm like, oh, it was another opportunity.
So you can definitely use your whole life as a bank. I would say we could maybe do a little Zoom in the future on some different things that different agents are doing. I think that'd be a really great idea.
Yeah.
I think all of our CPAs and stuff, like they get bits and pieces and we hear things from other agents that are doing, as big or bigger business or in different states. And you're like, wait, you can do that? We're having a call at 2:30 today in Gary's group that I'll record, but it's on a couple of different things. And it's not about making more money, it's about keeping more money, which is cool. On page 56, I highlighted the entire gray box just because I thought, Robert Kiyosaki is kind of one of my guys. I thought, besides the one thing, Rich Dad, Poor Dad and his cash flow quadrant and all that stuff was one of the easiest books that I ever read. And I literally can skim through that book in a couple of hours. Like, I loved it. But one of the beauties of real estate is you don't need money. If you can find a great deal, people will throw money at you. And that is so true in Nashville and every market. But in Nashville right now, just finding a deal is the deal. And money is flowing. You can find so many investors and you can give them modest returns and they just want to put their money somewhere.
Nice.
Yeah, I like that. And then I circled on 57 in that diagram, but I think it captured what you said earlier, Josh. It's the diagram shows there's a little of a few things. That's your base hits, your doubles. That's that diagram, as opposed to like, oh yeah, I need to go buy 25.
What you think you need?
Yeah,
for sure. I highlighted so many. I mean, there's so many good nuggets, and this is the kind of book that I love highlighting in different colors. Sounds kind of girly, but I take lots of notes and put in like all my stuff, whatever they are. That okay? Do we want to continue on there?
Jess, is this your part? Tim, are you up? I don't know. Yeah, Tim, what you got?
I'm page 75.
I'm up.
I think the biggest thing was too, having people get trapped by fear that they never take the first step. That was one of the quotes. Just taking the first step. It's just like when you go, jump off doing a skydive or, go cliff jumping or anything like that. So scary. And then once you do it, it's so fun and so exciting, and start a team, same thing. So I think just taking that first step is amazing, and people just need to do it. So get yourself an accountability partner. I think after our little book club, get some action plans in place and get yourself an accountability partner.
I like that.
Yeah. I highlighted on 61. I really like this whole page about that.
That was page 66. Go ahead.
The myth that investing is complicated. And the truth is investing is only as complicated as you make it. And I think the part where it says in the middle of the page, it talks about the trick is taking a step back and identify the aspects that matter the most. So in the end, like, you'll understand the fundamentals, like it's going to happen. But Chris Heike said, just treat it like a buffet line. You use what you can. The rest may not apply today. And I think that's right, because it's always progressive. Like, you're learning, you're growing. You may, yeah, like it builds on itself step by step by step. You may, buy a single family and realize that you want to do multifamily, but if you never start, you're never going to learn like truly what suits you. So I think that was like, it builds on itself. Like, fractions look like nonsense to a child. Everything's going to seem complicated until you get your hands in it. So I don't think any of us have a problem just charging forward. So even one of the least expensive properties in any of our markets, when you're buying it, I mean, it's scary. Like, it's just scary. What if you make a bad decision? So I think that's a big deal, but also know that you can't invest in anything else and put as little money down as you can and make the amount of money and the depreciation and all those things, which we'll go into later, I guess.
And I think that, though, us that have been in real estate for a long time, it shouldn't be scary. We do it every day. We help people do it every day. We have vendor partners and contractors and people to help look at things before we move through. We know how to follow a contract and get out of it if need be, right? So I think that our group of people that are reading and working through this shouldn't have too much fear. It's just the doing it part, the getting into action part, and having it as a priority.
Yeah. At the top right of 63, it said real estate provides investors with a tangible investment that's easy for anyone to understand. If profits were lower than expected, that's because it was colder than usual winter, driving up heating expenses, or did a pipe burst. But you can understand this. This is not an overcomplicated type of investment. It's something you can learn and grow from. So that to me was just like, once you start owning property, you totally start to get it. But I don't think the learning is ever over.
What was really important on that page too was they said Buffett, he had some opportunities to invest in a bunch of different things. And even though he has so much money and whatever else, he chose to invest in only what he knew or understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick to what you know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I like that one.
Dory, do you have anything to add to that?
No, stick to what you know is probably the best in my, in my sense, doing it at the beginning anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I was going to say, I really like that Buffett didn't invest in the whole internet tech craze in the late 90s. I thought that was pretty cool. And then the other piece on 63 is great investors don't think of investing as risky. Yes. And I kind of mentioned that earlier. I love that because if you really know what you're doing, it's all calculated. It's all knowledge, and it's about following sound investment principles and models. And so they basically just take the risk out of the game altogether.
Can I ask you something? I don't know if I'm muted or not.
You're on. Yeah.
Okay. Do all four of you have partners in this, or is this sole ventures?
So I'm sole venture.
Yeah. On my 3 apartment complexes, I own it with one investor on each of them. And they're the same investor.
Okay.
And then the rest of them I own outright myself.
We also put all of our homes in LLCs.
Mm-hmm.
The property individual LLCs, not all in one lump LLC.
I also do all of mine on a 15-year note at the absolute most.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Yeah. I do that because I want to pay it. I would rather pay more on the principal and defer some of the cash. I buy it to where it's going to cash flow enough regardless, but I would rather pay it off quicker. And
makes sense. Yeah.
I'm buying some of these properties I'm buying for my kids, and they don't really know it, but that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. That was my intention. I had one for each of my children. Yep.
You know what, Dory? What did I say in the chat? The best time to plant a tree
is yesterday. Yeah.
Second best time is now.
Yeah, but the second best time, right?
Today.
Yes. Agree.
Tim, what else do you have?
Well, nothing on page 64. Just talked about that deal that the guy, he took a look at. They dropped the price to 39, and he wrote an offer over that sight unseen because he was confident enough, and wound up buying the property for 42. He turned around and listed it and sold it for 54,000, making a profit. If you understand the market, you understand what you're doing, things like that do feel comfortable. It's not so risky. He probably understood he couldn't lose money. Obviously if he'd bought it and it was only worth 39,000, he kept it as a rental and it would have profited over the years. But instead, he turned around and made profit. So there's multiple ways to lose on the houses.
Like the next day, they had like 8 offers on it or something, whatever the number was.
Yeah.
He did pretty good by paying 3,000 over and still making how much ever he made.
Josh, speaking of the 100,000 that got away, remember that beach house that you wouldn't pull the trigger on?
I'll murder you right now. You wouldn't pull the trigger on.
Hey, that's documented. You should not say that.
Something happens.
A lovely kind of way.
Yeah, me and Josh looked at a beach house and we were disputed on. Honestly, I didn't understand the market, and
I did.
Like a year later, it was worth 150 more than we were gonna buy it for.
Yeah.
Listen, anytime you guys find a beach house, that's the one time I never think I will just give you money. It has to be waterfront.
But we have friends that live in those areas.
I'll keep that in mind, Jess.
I need my boat.
I think on page 65 was important, understanding that real estate is cyclical. And we know this, but people have selective amnesia about when the reality is, right? So over the course of time, the market is a steady increase, but in between that, there's the waves. And yeah, there's times where inventory is high, which is, a buyer's market, and when it's low, it's a seller's market. And so they have cycles, and just understanding where you're at if it's time to, you can hedge what type of investment or purchase you're going to make based on the time of the market. So just understanding that is important. I think I do a good job explaining that to investors, even if sometimes that's like, hey, hold your cash, because I think we're going to start to see a lot more deals. Because that's the way that I think. So we're holding on to some cash now and anticipating some much better deals that we'll buy on the downturn and sell the next time that the market comes up. And that's a very just a strategic way of thinking.
Yeah. Well, for time's sake, let's hop into Think a Million. So we're on page 75. And so, Josh, I think you got this.
I kind of wrote some things down. I highlighted stuff, but I also just kind of wrote some things down because I think that we've all kind of heard Think Powered by a Big Why. And I think that's awesome. Some of the things that I wrote down really kind of got back to the Think net worth. And I think this was a big piece as I was reading this. And I'll just kind of tell you guys real quick. So I was reading this yesterday morning on my sofa in my office. And for whatever reason, I just stopped reading it and I sent Gary an email and just kind of asked him on the Think net worth, like, what did you do? And so he sent me an email back. I didn't think he was going to send me an email back as quickly as he did, but he sent me, what's that?
He's super fast with email.
He's awesome. And I was hoping he'd send an email back before this Zoom call, because I think that the 4 pieces that he really kind of said, and we've gone over it, but it's creating the asset and liability worksheet. And so I think if you don't want to carry that around with you physically, you can go use something like Mint, or, there's apps that you can do the
Drive.
What's that?
You can even use Drive. Make it simple.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things you can use, but his was basically, it was just kind of a chart of accounts, and it basically showed his net worth, where it comes from, and what he's earning actually in passive income. And we see on things like when you're buying a house, for example, you put your asset, your debt to income ratio, and you put your assets out there, and one of your car is an asset. Well, we know it's not really an asset, but on that, for that particular use, it's an asset. And he said in his 20s, that's when or his late 20s, I think, he was saying that was the first time he realized like how much a car is, it lowered the value, or it lowered his net worth. And that was like his big aha, was that a car is actually not an asset. It's a depreciating asset, which means that it's a liability.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other three things, one was he said, find out who your prophet is. For him, it's Warren Buffett and Robert Kiyosaki. And whoever it is, I mean, he's kind of got his one thing for all those different pieces of his life. So he, like at Mega Camp, he had a guy come in, and Jess, you were there to talk about, he gave everybody, Gary bought like 250 books from this fitness guru. Anyway, so find, for money, find who your prophet is. Number three, who are your 5 people? Like who are the people around you that are also interested in wealth building, like truly wealth building, and not, hey, this is how much money I make from my income. Go find those people and meet with them regularly, kind of like he did with Michael.
Mm-hmm.
But get a group of 3 or 4, and it might be real estate. It might just be investments that are, just across the board. And then the last thing was he created Keller Capital, and he hired a wealth determiner or a wealth builder for him. And that's Mitch. And Mitch, basically, he gives him a really, really good split, and he paid him a low salary. And when Mitch finds him deals, he makes money. Well, they all make money. So I thought that for me, that was kind of cool that Gary sent this email back, and just kind of, these were the things I was thinking and some of the things he said, but I just think those are the important. This isn't rocket science. Like, just go out and do it and be surrounded with good people. I think one of the things we didn't spend too much time on, Jess, it was your topic. It was criteria, terms, and network. I think your network and your team in this particular scenario, I think all 3 of them are very important, but your team, like who your lender is and what they can do for you, your home inspector, like I think your team is so important. And same thing we sell to our clients, like who our systems and processes and our team and all that stuff is really important. And I think that to be able to build true wealth, we need to have people surrounding us that get it at a high level.
Well, you also need to open up that team a little bigger even. I think about when with our properties, hey, your team is your HVAC guy, your team is your electrician, your carpenter, your roofer.
Everybody.
Yeah,
insurance guy, everybody.
Landscaper, you gotta build that network. And by the way, when you build that network and you keep feeding them, they're gonna feed your real estate business. They're gonna help you find tenants. They're gonna tell you when your tenants aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. Like, it's important.
Even your property manager, like if your property manager knows she's managing other people's properties, hey, this guy's kind of tired of owning these properties, or hey, he's getting old, or hey, situation changed and he wants to sell them. Would you be a buyer?
Right. And think about it. How amazing is it that we can email the owner of our company and he emails us back. Literally any email I've ever sent him, 5-10 minutes at most, he emails you back. It's amazing. And the book that was at his mastermind was called Take Charge. It was all about your health and how to really maximize how you work out. And it's actually not working out to, all hours, day and night, but it was a really different way of looking at things that was pretty cool if you read the book. So the book's name is Take Charge.
The other piece on page 8, I'm sorry, Jenny, I'm going to go.
I'm just going to add in this part as you guys keep saying team, and that made me think of our real estate team. So do you guys have inside of your real estate team an investment group or a partnership, or is this something that you look to have in the future as part of your value proposition as being a leader of a team? Maybe you don't have it yet, but is it on in your brain for that purposes?
It's on our org chart, and ours is extremely loose. Like we have a couple of people that work on investment properties, and they kind of know that I'm always a buyer, and they bring it to me first. And then from there, but if they wanted to partner on a deal or anything like that, I'm totally.
I know. I'm just saying, like maybe that can be part of our team value proposition. It's on my org chart too, as something in the future. So maybe that's something to put into paper action. Okay, go ahead, Josh. You can finish out.
Too, for that same exact thing. It's based on longevity, and it's based on a buying group for the team to buy investment properties together. Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's cool. I was just going to mention page 89. I really like the money matrix because when you start looking around and thinking of how much we, especially as Americans, like how much we consume. And so at the top, you've got your typical person, you've got at the bottom, you've got the consumption, cash flow, capital. And then going back the other way is the capital, cash flow, cash, and consumption. So once you have the capital and you have the cash flow and you have the cash, you can consume whatever you want within reason. But most people start at the consumption, and that's why most people have lots of credit card debt and they don't have the cash for it. They're consuming before they actually have it. And so I just think it's a good visual of like reading through that and like how kind of ignorant people are about money. And I know that's not probably a good term, and I don't mean it more of uneducated. Like, we don't talk about it in school. We don't talk about anything business or money in elementary and middle school or high school. And I think that's a problem. And I think that's where we've got to do a better job at home of being really open and talking about money and how things work.
And as realtors, what was mentioned over and over again at Mega Camp, it was profit. And so I have a new coach that's all we're going to start talking about is, you know, building the business based on profit first and really using that model. Are you guys implementing that into your businesses and all that as well?
That's awesome.
I can help you with that, Jen.
Josh, to piggyback on that, on the bottom of 91 and the top of 92, I think is like been thus far like my favorite part. Yeah, well, the chart, but then it just talks about shadow wealth. And
that's what I just said, the shadow wealth.
Talking about the millionaire next door in that book is, you know, referred to as big hat, no cattle, or big house, no investments. Yeah, like that whole concept, like that's real, like very true.
When you start thinking about it regularly and you start looking around it, like actually your neighbors and your friends and people, it's pretty interesting to see like what kind of cars people drive versus what their investments are. And I don't know. I don't really have any hobbies. I like business and I like collecting houses.
You like making money.
I do like making money.
Long walks.
Long walks to the bank.
Right. All right. Well, we have some more pages left, but do you feel like we've kind of, I really liked page 99, all of the real estate and most able investment. I like plays on words and things that make things easy to remember. So real estate, what's that?
It's called an acronym.
Yeah. And well, this is the last letters of the word, so it's not really an acronym, smarty pants. So real estate is accessible, appreciable, leverageable, rentable, improvable, deductible, depreciable, oh my gosh, I can't talk, deferrable, stable, and livable. And then he goes into defining all of what those mean. And so any other ahas from that last part, you guys?
I thought page 104, I highlighted the last paragraph, or the first sentence of the last paragraph. You can increase the value of property in a more subtle way by changing its zoning or use. And so that kind of goes into like, we think just adding paint or doing this. And I think there's lots of angles that we can work, and being privy to like metro codes and what we can do with certain things, or if we know zoning really well. And I think that's what like lawyers do really well sometimes, that really know the tax code or they really know certain things. There's loopholes in all of that. And then on page 105, it kind of continues on the real estate in 3D, which is deductible, depreciable, and deferrable. And I think that's where we start looking at how much money do we make from an income perspective, and how can we write things off and defer things, 1031 exchanges. I have investors that have never even heard of a 1031 exchange, which is kind of mind-blowing to me.
So,
wait, y'all are a couple of them.
So that's just opportunity for us to learn these things, to again share with our clients, and the messages that we share, whether it's through our social posts or our videos, etc., to add value. Well, we've got 5 minutes left. Any final thoughts from you guys that you'd like to share?
Yeah. Does anybody want to chime in?
I know no one's letting me know. I can unmute.
Probably bored them to death.
I'm going to allow everybody to talk. If you want to say hi, come on in. Hello, people.
Hello. What do you think about companies that have portfolios? Is that a good way to find property as well?
What do you mean when you say portfolio? Elaborate.
For instance, Francesca was just involved with a company with auctions, and she was able to give them enough information that they were purchasing this property. And now she's going to be kind of in tight with this company that has a portfolio of properties that they'll buy and they'll sell. So this just happened yesterday, and I was trying to think of, a parlay for that in a way.
I would tell you, yeah, I mean, I think there's opportunity there. I also think there's great opportunity in particular, like probate attorneys.
Yes.
You can be a buyer. I've bought multiple properties from that. And when I didn't buy those properties, you know what I was next? A listing agent. So it's kind of nice to have that option of, this makes sense. You're helping the family. The family needs to get rid of it to settle the estate. So there's lots of different avenues of
I meant more like on finding the opportunity there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think getting in with probate attorneys is a good opportunity to finding the deals, because typically, at least in Tennessee, they have to go through a certain process. And the same portfolios, a lot of these guys buy portfolios and they clip off a coupon for their investors for 5 to 7 years, and then they have to sell them. And even if they sell them at a loss, they're still successful doing what they needed to do, because they had to deploy a certain amount of cash. I mean, obviously they want to sell them for more money, but yeah.
So let's talk about the iBuyer real quick. I mean, is this some kind of strategy we could have in our own businesses where you have your own investor person that is your backer? Right, Timmy? Go.
Yes, it is. There are people that are willing to let go of and not go through the hurdle. This was proven to me yesterday. There's a home on the market, and let's just say that home is $900,000. And I know for a fact they'll sell it for $7 million. I got it from a wholesaler, but in fact it's listed at $200,000 more. They're willing to sell that home for $200,000 less than it's listing for, and the agent has no idea. That just is a testament that there are people who are willing to not deal with the hassle. There's a price they will take to get rid of it. We're not. The real estate agents are not asking the right questions.
Right.
But this is also about knowing your market, like, and knowing your client and all of those things. Like, how much is it actually worth?
It's worth 900.
Well, if it was worth 900 in the consumer's eyes, it would sell for 900. But
it just listed for 7 days ago. No, it's really worth 900 and ultimately could sell, but right now they'll take a lot less. There's a unique circumstance that they're not disclosing, but there's a unique circumstance. So, meaning why would they be talking to somebody who probably sent out a mailer, or we buy homes for cash? Why would they be talking to them? So there's a need behind the need, and so yeah, there's just opportunities. Open Door and all these other companies who are doing it, they're saying, hey, here's a low hassle way. It's no different than the guaranteed sale.
I think what Jenny was asking, yeah, I think what Jenny's asking, maybe I'm wrong, but I think, are you saying similar to what we just had this conversation, like about the idea that can we create our own iBuyer program, send out a certain amount of mailers to certain demographics, certain locations, and do that? In the meantime, we're finding investors that want to help us flip these properties, buy and hold. They could become listings. So
worst case.
So there's like 4 or 5 different ways to get paid on these deals for us as realtors. And I think, I think there's opportunity there for sure.
So that could be another conversation.
I think it's creating Facebook ads, postcards, and having the lists of distressed properties and things like that.
Yeah.
Well, next time we are going to pick up in a couple weeks. The event is saved on the page, and we're going to read from here where we finished at 123 to 250 in the 4 stages by $1 million. Are you excited?
That is so many pages.
I'm glad if forever who watches this, but I'm glad you're forcing me to go through this book again. It's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
It's really for us, and then we get to live it, right? Let's do it. All right, you guys have an awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this very much today. It was awesome.
Thanks, Dory. Thanks, Jenny. Good seeing you guys.
See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Bye.